So the Met Gala. The Met Gala is, if we have to put it in very simple terms, is just a fundraising event. It's a dinner. In fact, it takes place in the Metropolitan Museum of Art. They close off a whole wing, and and a number of invited guests that join to raise funds for the Costume Institute. The Costume Institute is the fashion collection of the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York City. It's a private collection. You cannot access it unless you're a scholar that you want to work on fashion. They have a small kind of fellowship programs, but that's about it. And although I've been told that it will get a space probably in the next couple of years in the museum. And so this is the major fundraising events. It was created originally in 1948 by Eleanor Lambert, who's also the person who launched the New York, not NYU, New York Fashion Week. Tickets were originally $50, but as far as I could find out, this year a ticket is $75,000, whereas the tables, which is usually sold to companies and fashion brands, they start from $350, and that sits around 8 people. And these tickets, though, they're not open to the public. You need to be invited and vetted by Anna Wintour, who is, as you probably know, the editor of Vogue US and Vogue at large throughout the globe. The guests, before sitting for dinner, they get a private tour of a fashion exhibition, which is the only time where the Costume Institute put together an art show, and it's going to be on display throughout the summer. Last year, it was dedicated to Karl Lagerfeld, who passed away. The show was called A Line of Beauty, and these are quite elaborate shows. It's so much about the architecture of the space, which gets redesigned for the occasion. And because the Costume Institute doesn't have like a permanent seat, different parts of the museum get closed off, and sometimes the shows get to be placed next to the incredible art collections of the Metropolitan Museum in quite an interesting way. For instance, for the show of 2018 called Heavenly Bodies, Fashion and the Catholic Imaginations, the costumes and the outfits were presented next to medieval sculptures and European paintings in the medieval wing of the museum. By the way, I'm showing this show because this is the best grossing exhibitions of all times at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. So while the Met Gala is mostly a fundraising events for the Costume Institute, actually the money raised help to fund all sorts of activities and exhibitions at the Met. As Roland was saying before, this year's theme is Sleeping Beauty, Reawakening Fashion. The theme is nature, but these themes, you have to realize, they're quite loose. The exhibitions organized by the Costume Institute at the Met, they're not renowned for the, let's say, for being conceptually dazzling. The themes are quite broad, and usually the show kind of lightly touches on them. It's mostly an occasion to show off around 250 outfits from the Costume Institute that usually houses 33,000. Every year, they select a theme, but also select a designer that is a brand that works as a sort of ambassador for the event. And this year, that is tomorrow, the Costume Institute honors J.W. Anderson, a British designer that a few years ago has been put in charge of a dormant Spanish brand called Leve. And he raised it to the very top of fashion. Now it's owned by Louis Vuitton, and because it injected a whimsical, surreal flair to it. So it has become a highly conceptual brand. I'm showing you here two outfits from the spring-summer 2003 collection. They became quite striking. The one you see in the center, that it looks as if it's a pixelated outfit from like a worn-out JPEG. It's actually the way the outfit is made. It has this kind of borders that makes it look as if the dress has been taken from like a video games from the 1980s. But J.W. Anderson extensively returns to nature as a sort of inspirations for his outfits. So these are three other outfits from the same collection, and where he works a great deal with replicas of plants and flowers, and so to um, update the traditional silhouette of the feminine dresses that plays with florals in a very conventional way. And but the Met Gala is also a major PR event. It's a way to promote um, fashion in every possible sense. It's an event designed by the Vogue editor as a platform for numerous brands, and all the guests are basically sponsored by a different fashion brand. So they're going to be photographed. It's the most photographed fashion event in the world. And but it's also a PR event for a number of other occasions. So together with Anna Wintour, there are 4 ambassadors that change every year. And this year, one of the 4 ambassadors is the Californian actress Zendaya, who has an incredible following on social media, but who's also starring in this movie that's come out a couple of weeks ago called Challengers, whose outfits have been designed by J.W. Anderson. So Anna Wintour and her Vogue team choose 4 of the major cultural events of the spring, and they pick up sort of the leading artists in the hope that the success of these events is going to naturally translate into a major, like say, news buzz for the Met Gala. So together with Zendaya, another ambassador is Jennifer Lopez, whose new album came out a month ago, but unfortunately it was a flop. So the reviews were negative, and it didn't get much traction, and that's why we're not going to hear much about it. Whereas the film Challengers has become a massive hit. So there's also this kind of PR elements that need to be taken into consideration. But the real reason why the Met Gala is so famous is because people wear outlandish outfits. There's a great degree of preparations in making these outfits. They're extremely elaborate. They can wear haute couture, hot from the catwalks, or they can create entirely unique pieces that verge on the costuming. Stars take the occasions of walking on the steps of the Met, these are the actual steps of the Metropolitan Museum of Art, to make performances for social media and from the news. As you can see on the side, this is Lady Gaga performing in 2018, showing Reveal with costumes that transform, or sometimes costumes that have a layered history, as when 2 years ago Kim Kardashian donned the outfit, the dress that Marilyn Monroe wore to celebrate the birthday of Kennedy. Or when in 1995, Lady Di wore a blue lingerie dress that was renamed by the news the revenge dress, because that's the dress that she wore on the moment she signed the papers of divorce with today King Charles. The costume gala, as I was telling you, started in the 1948. It didn't take place originally at the Met. It actually took place in a number of hotels, started with Waldorf Astoria. And then it took up a theme only in 1972, when Diane Vreeland, the famous fashion editor of Vogue throughout the 60s, after she got fired by Vogue, she got a place as a consultant for the Met, basically the Costume Institute. At the point was just like a collection of dresses donated by the Met donors. She started organizing fashion shows, fashion exhibitions, and she tied the Met Gala, which is again the fundraising event, to this exhibition by giving them a theme. So she is really since the 70s that we have a theme, because all the art invitees have to follow the theme, and therefore all these outfits fit it. She also started inviting high caliber celebrities like Jacqueline Kennedy's, Diana Ross. This was not necessarily on the agenda before the 1970s. So since then, the Met Gala became a mediatic event. But the operation of Diana Vreeland is actually more sophisticated than just producing a glitzy event full of celebrities. In fact, she looked at the famous balls of the so-called cafe societies in the 40s and the 50s. The cafe society is actually an artificial label that is associated to a group of jet-setting celebrities and fashion designers that every year, by pure chance, without really any planning, they met in a different country and they convened and to have a mask ball. I'm showing you here on the screen perhaps what was the most famous mask ball of the Café Society. It's called Le Bal Oriental, sometimes dubbed as the Ball of the Century, which was organized in Palazzo Labia in Venice in 1951 in the occasions of the carnival. So where various celebrities and billionaires gather together in Venice in these occasions, they don costumes to celebrate the carnival. But we have other places. So for instance, another famous ball took place in New Orleans. But it's important to realize that all these balls are connected to the carnival. And this is something that the press has forgotten about, but it explains why the costumes that a lot of the celebrities wear today, they still have this carnivalesque dimensions to it. They're supposed to be attention grabbing. They sometimes make very interesting references to the past and they play with the theme of the night. But the costumes, it's an inherent component of what a ball is. A ball is a costume ball, it's a mask ball. In a way, that tradition has been revived in recent times. After Diane Vreeland set up this tradition, it kind of fizzled out during the 1980s, and it's only in 1995 that Anna Wintour decided to revive this tradition. And it was mostly a power move to show that Vogue had the upper hand, especially American Vogue, had the upper hand in the press of fashion. In 1995, just before Anna Wintour started the Met Gala, there are actually a lot of competitions between the various fashion magazines. For instance, Vogue Italy, for which I worked for several years, was considered the most conceptual one, but was Vogue Paris that really kind of like took the spotlight every time. So as a way to make Vogue US become the most important of all the Vogue publications, Anna Wintour tied this to this event. And by assembling an incredible selections of guests every year, she guaranteed the limelight. It was really like a sort of PR move for Vogue US, which is today in charge, in fact, of all the other national Vogues throughout the world. And to do so, Anna Wintour started a collaborations with some of the other American powerhouses, for instance, Hollywood. She, in fact, created, excuse me, an art show on superheroes. I'm sorry if there's some water. A super shows on superheroes. I rub it here. I need to go. to the kitchen to get water, and as a way to involve Hollywood producers and numerous stars. And I stopped there. Give me a second. I need to, but I have finished. I have finished. We can stop here.